carryovers this afternoon. In looking at the rolling super high 5, that actually does start in today's first race. There's no carryover in the rolling super high 5, but you can dive right into the action. We also have the early pick 5 today, and do take note that in today's 9th race there will be no super high 5 wagering. We'll remind you as we get to that race later on this afternoon. In race 5, that does start the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6, and that carryover continues to grow, $69,000. Yesterday was kind of a formful, chalky sequence in a sense, so there are a lot of live tickets going into the yesterday's finale. Hopefully we can get some prices today as we get into race 6. It does kick off the late 50-cent pick 5. I believe you have 2 tickets for us today. I took a little stab at the Rainbow Pick 6 yesterday. It was a crazy ticket. We made it all the way to the final leg of the sequence. I had 2 singles. Unfortunately, my second single didn't show up.
And I was just the opposite. I had the final leg, but I missed that single. He finished third in that race. So we were right around it. And still, even with all those favorites winning yesterday, it still paid $400 for 6 out of 6. And it's only a 20-cent wager. So if you put yourself a $60, $70 ticket together, you might be able to get $400, even if you don't get that one unique ticket.
A nice ROI indeed.
Exactly.
We'll take a look at today's card, though. We started off with race 1, and why don't you walk us through your ticket here, Ron?
Well, let's see my early pick 5, and as we mentioned, it is all in the turf, and you'll see my progression. I go down here, 3, 3. My long shot in the 3rd race, going to go 4 deep in there, and then race number 5, I actually singled the horse this afternoon, and we will get to that horse a little later on today. It is the number 8, Ras Abruk, I think it's pronounced, and we'll talk about that as it goes on. So I went with a single in the final leg because I wanted to pump it up there and maybe get some shots early on.
Okay, 3, 4, 8. You do go in the first leg of the sequence. I have the 3 and the 4 in my ticket, but use the 6 on top in here. Maydell. You look at the odds too. I think Viva Bertha first under the handling of Peter Walder, coming from the Mike Rivas and Larry Ravelli barn. I think this mare is going to be well played. She's kept really good form out of town at Arlington and at Hawthorne, but I went for kind of maybe the longer price horse, the 6 Maydell in here for Peter Walder. I think she's been keeping very, very good form. Last time out, she was defeated a few lengths behind Quiet Kitten, who would go on to win the Tiara Stakes on Claiming Crown Day. Even before that, she was finished second behind Perfect Step, who would go on to beat Stakes Company in her next start too. So I think the running lines there, for class purposes, they've been very strong.
Yeah, and Viva Bertha play a little bit of a devil's advocate here, even though I put this horse on top. And if you look at Peter Walder, he's only 3 for 32. That's 9% in turf routes. That's not his game. He's much better on the main track, but that's not to say he can't win, because you see he's got some wins there. So either one of those horses figuring there. I did go with Viva Bertha on top of my ticket. We both used the number 4, Ladies Luna Luck, who moved to the Gustavo Delgado barn via the claim after her 3-race win streak ended when she finished second as the favorite. That was going a mile. It was across town at Gulfstream Park West. New connections to have Luis Saez to handle. This is an 8-time turf winner.
I know. You look at even the track record there. I believe she might be 20 for 36 in the money. She's just a really, really hard-knocking turf runner at the ripe old age of 7 years old. And again, first off the claim, the connections do very well. First off the claim and on the turf. So that's one to use. The 8, Too Clever by half. Now, this is an interesting one. I'm familiar with this mare back in Maryland, and I've always thought of her as kind of a one-run sprinter, whether it be on the turf or the dirt. Now today, she stretches out to 2 turns. She's going to be lightning fast, and I do think she's going to be the fastest early filly mare in the race. But can she kind of sustain that bid to the finish line?
Well, I put her on the ticket, and I said she'd be prominently placed throughout. If you watched the races, if you joined us at Gulfstream Park West during the last time this horse ran there was a bias. It was definitely tilted toward horses that stalked and closed. This one went right to the lead there, led every step of the way against that bias, to defeat $20,000 claimers at a mile. I was impressed by that performance, running against this bias that we all perceived, whether that particular day, if you had the best horse, the bias didn't count, you can go up there and win. But a horse like this, I have a little bit more respect for it, so I put it on my ticket.
I really like her too. If I used 4 horses in here, she always really gives it her all. She gives it her best too. And the biggest question for me though is stretching out to a route of ground. I did kind of look up a stat for the barn over the past 2 years. Turf sprints to routes only 3 for 26. So it's a negative ROI, but again, she's very classy and she very well could take them gate to wire.
One other thing, the rail setting in the first race today is 115 feet. We were watching some of those horses that had a break from the outside with that rail position. It looked like they had to get going early or immediately duck in.
And it kind of took some wind out of the sails for horses who had that stalking speed, who broke from the outside. They either had to go from the rail, from the outside post, and kind of be taken out of their comfort zone, or be taken all the way back. So I agree that's something to be very cognizant of as you handicap the card. We'll go to race 2, a 50,000 non-winners of 2 lifetime claiming event. Rail set at 48 feet today at a mile and a 16th. And this is an interesting race. I wind up landing on the 5, Romeo Lima. We saw Christophe Clement win with a horse coming off of a layoff since April yesterday. That was a really nice victory. This horse has been well bet in the past 2 starts. Now gets to the mile and a 16th. And quite honestly, I think there's plenty of pace in here to get a nice stalking trip. I do think he's going to like the added distance, and he draws a perfect middle post position.
Middle post position, and I think the condition fits this horse perfectly because it's non-winners of 2 races in life. It is a $50,000 tag, but its last race, he was beaten 2.5 lengths. That was against first-level allowance runners going 7.5 furlongs. So this is a nice spot, non-winners of 2 in life, even though there's that high claiming price on it. So it certainly looks like the one to beat in here on paper, and we both landed on number 5, Romeo Lima.
And if you're going to try to beat the favorite, maybe the 10, Moonlight Bandit, is an interesting one. But again, this is a case in point where we're just speaking about. He kind of has that middle stalking type of run, and he draws to the way outside. The rail is set at 48 feet, so I don't know if it's going to be too detrimental for this particular horse. But I would imagine he's going to have to take back and maybe save some ground going into the first turn.
Yeah, another horse I used on there was the 3 horse, and that's Doc Curlin, who's facing winners locally. He responded to the addition of blinkers by defeating a trio of next out winners. It was a good $40,000 maiden test going a mile on the Belmont turf. It's Tommy Bush, Jose Lascano, 2 guys I really respect. I've hit a lot of long shots with Tom Bush, the trainer, and Jose Lascano, one of the best turf riders that we have here in South Florida.
He had one of my favorite horses. I believe his name was Get Stormy a while back.
I remember that horse.
He was so beautiful. And I agree with you. You always get some really nice prices for those Tom Bush runners. We'll move on to race 3, a 16,000 non-winners of 2 lifetime condition. Rail set all the way out there at 115 feet for this mile distance. And I land on the 6, Perfect Trace here as the top selection, trying to get a decent price here. And Perfect Trace, this could go one of 2 ways. She's a deep closing turf sprinter that doesn't want to stretch out to 2 turns, or she's going to like stretching out to 2 turns today. We'll take a look at her most recent replay. And that was against that interesting condition. Actually, the race came up relatively tough, and we can see her way coming back from off the pace. I believe she's the number 13 in this race in the Larry Johnson silks, black and white silks. And she just takes a little bit of time to get really going. She's kind of down inside horses in this particular race. She has to kind of battle away between horses. And then she finally comes with this late, grinding, closing run. And I thought it was impressive because obviously the winner of the race got an earlier start at the stretch, and she comes with this late closing run, and the gallop out was strong as well. And that's what I said. At turf sprints, you almost think that she's running out of real estate and she might actually succeed going 2 turns, or it could take some starch out of her as well. So I like her. A little bit of trepidation. By no means would I single her in a pick 6.
And you actually got to see that race in person because that was at Laurel, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so one of the horses I did not use on my ticket, but you do this to me all the time. You show me the replays, then I have to go back and add it to my ticket. I did go with the horse on top in here, and that's Rockin' Rhonda, stretching out slightly out to this mile distance, dropping to the $16,000 level. breaking from the rail again after tracking the pace, finishing fourth. Was beaten only about a length and a half. It was against $30,000 two lifetime claimers going 7.5 furlongs. I think this horse fits the race shape perfectly, and I think the the slight turn back in distance is not going to affect this horse.
I agree. This is one I kind of overlooked, but she definitely fits the bill here. Even the 3 Happy Twins, she's getting a class relief, and if she duplicates her race that she put in on the 5th of June, she could easily win this race.
Yeah, and Dave Casson doing a good job. He had a win on yesterday's card, and he's got the Luca Panici in the saddle today.
All right, we'll move on to the 4th race on the card, a starter optional claiming event. Rail set at 48 feet going out to the turf at the distance of 1 mile. We have a few scratches in this event, and the 6 Golden Rifle does seem to be very tough to beat, but the 2 Saffron Hall is no slouch either.
Yeah, and I put the 2 right on top of my ticket, and I know you want to go back and show a performance of this horse at Gulfstream Park.
Yeah, this was on Claiming Crown Day. 2 starts back before the layoff there. So he was coming off a significant layoff last time out. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice a little bit. And the ground that this horse made up at the top of the stretch was very impressive, I thought. It was kind of this late closing, grinding run. However, at the same time, playing devil's advocate, the 2 pace setters completely fell apart, and it really did set up for those stalkers, closers, the 2nd and 3rd wave of horses. But when you see a horse that makes up 10 lengths, especially on the Gulfstream turf, you have to be very impressed.
Yeah, and that was the 2014 Claiming Crown Emerald here a year ago. He makes his local return at the $25,000 optional claiming level, where today is. After returning from an 11-month layoff, he finished a trouble 7th. He was bumped at the start. He was 6th wide. It was a $62,000 optional claimer going a mile on the yielding turf course at Churchill Downs. We're going to show you a stat here from Mike Make in turf routes. He's got Javier Castellano, and this is a big sampling. I just wanted to show it out there. 77 for 376, 20% in turf routes. This is where they get their job done.
And not to mention, this horse was actually favored last time out against a very tough allowance optional claiming race. Now, this race came up relatively tough because we do have the likes of the 6 Golden Rifle. But again, one of my handicapping angles, because I remember watching a couple of the graded stakes kind of in the early part of November at Churchill, the turf was very soft. Even going back and watching the replays, there's a lot of clots kind of kicking up too. So that's something to be cognizant of, and maybe playing against the horses who won and playing for the horses who ran
Yeah, they just didn't get a hold of the ground or whatever. They're cutting the ground there. But I agree with you. You have the 6 on top, Golden Rifle. You cannot lead this horse off your ticket.
And I also think he's going to get a decent setup. We have the likes of the 8 MC Squared, who's very fast in his own right. I remember this horse running 22 and 4, 45 and change for a mile, and 16th there at Laurel. So this horse is capable of going very fast. And Joe Sharp, 2 winners on yesterday's card. He acquires this horse for the first time. I almost think that he's Golden Rifle is going to get a similar setup as he did on the 8th of August here at Gulfstream, where he just sits behind the speed and proceeds from there. I'm not crazy about the price if he goes out at a really short price, but again, I do think he's going to get a similar setup.
Yeah, and Golden Rifle actually his stakes win here. He won the $75,000 Mr. Steele back in September, so he's got the class to do very well in here.
All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to dive into the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. We do have a carryover just shy of $70,000 this afternoon after this. And we're back at Gulfstream today, and we're talking about the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. It does start in today's 5th race this afternoon, and we do have a nice carryover, too.
Yeah, almost $70,000. This is where it starts getting interesting. They're going to start playing this thing in a pretty nice sequence. We actually have this first leg is a turf race, so we got a good full field, and not easy to handicap this one because there's a couple of really nice horses in here.
But you actually singled a horse in your early pick 5 in this sequence, and that is the 8 Rasa Brook.
Yeah, Rotzebrook stretching out to a mile and a 16th after that promising 1 mile career debut at Keeneland, in which he finished second. He was beaten the neck in front of a trio of next out winners, so it turned out to be a really good race. Graham Motion, John Velasquez in the saddle. Want to show you a stat real quick no, that's not on, that's on Old Sport. When we get to Old Sport, I'll show you that stat.
All right.
But this horse had a single somewhere, but I'm so afraid of Old Sport.
I'm afraid of Old Sport too. I actually I really respect the 8 Rasa Brook just primarily because of his last performance. He kind of did get off to an awkward start. He bobbled a little bit coming out of the break, and then he kind of rallied from there to go on and just be defeated by a neck. The only bad thing was the winner of the race, Czar. He came out to run next out at Churchill against first level allowance horses and kind of a subpar performance. So again, I really do like him, but the 13 flatlined I find very intriguing. We'll take a look at his most recent replay, and that was at Churchill. Now, I'm shopping for a price here. This horse I do at 12 to 1, or at least at double-digit odds. If you get 10 to 1, maybe even 8 to 1, I think there's some value here. We'll take a look coming out of the gate, and he's breaking from the way outside post position. Unfortunately, he has to do a similar thing here once again today. He gets squeezed back a little bit going into the first turn, as you can see, and then going into the first turn once again, caught extremely wide. Now coming down the stretch once again, he gets bumped in between horses there. He's rallying again. This is another horse who's making a late closing run. The winner of the race gets another head start on him, but he's just beaten by 4 lengths, and it looks like the winner just was really taking a liking to the turf. He was skipping over kind of that softer turf that day at Churchill. So if this horse, you look at his back races on the main track, and he's actually been contentious early. He's never been that far back off the pace, so I'm wondering if today he might be a little bit closer.
Yeah, you'll have to push him out, maybe get him going. We've been mentioning this all day. He's breaking from that outside post, but a pretty nice performance there to finish second and only get beat a couple of lengths.
And talking about a couple of the different selections here and talking about the pick 6, I want to show you my ticket quickly here. And using several different horses, I'm interested to see that you actually singled in this leg, because I do think that we could see a reversal of form on some of these horses. 1, 3, 6, 8, and 13 to start us off, using 4 horses in the second leg, 2 in race 7. I really like the 7 horse. We'll get to that horse in a little bit. In race 7, race 8, 3, 5, 9, singling on the 8, Todd Butcher, 2-year-old, enough said, and race 10 using 3 horses in that final leg of the sequence. So we'll get through it, but the 3 Old Sport, this is one I didn't use in the top 3, but couldn't leave him off the pick 6.
Yeah, he trained consistently up at Palm Beach Downs in preparation for the first start. He tracked the pace. He weakened late. He finished 5th behind the aforementioned number 8 horse in the Rasa Brook. That was at Keeneland. Todd Pletcher. Want to show you this stat. He's a perfect 5 for 5 in the money. 5 starts, 2 wins, a second and a third, with horses shipping from Keeneland to Gulfstream. It's a limited sampling, but it's just another angle here for Todd Pletcher. When he does ship from Keeneland into here, he's never missed. He's been on the board. Not that he won them all, but he's been on the board all 5 times. So I thought that was an interesting stat to show.
Yes, and you can never leave him out of a pick 6 at your own peril here. The One Fair Prospect, I thought, has been running some pretty nice Spire speed figures and has been showing some speed lately, and he very well could dictate from that inside post position. That's one I kind of used underneath as well, and you throw in the 6 Honor Earned.
Yeah, Ralph Nix, he's pretty good. He's 21% with horses making the second turf start. So just thought that was a good angle in there to put him on the ticket. But I think you might have the right way to go there with, a bunch of horses in that race. And we did a similar thing yesterday. The race I singled, you went deep in, so we'll see who, and I missed out. I just want to say that in my single yesterday.
Well, we could see the tables turn here this afternoon. We'll take a look at the 6th race at 12,500 conditional claimer going out to the main track at the 1-turn mile. And this does start the late pick 5. Who's your single? Do you have a single?
No, we don't have a single in this one because I just couldn't find one. He will show you my ticket real quickly here, and you see that I went 3 deep here. 1, 4, and 10, and I go 3, 2, 2, and 3 at the end for a $54 ticket to see if I can nail it. I could not find a single in this one. I told you, I did the race that you singled in. I had to go with the 3 horse too.
This is an interesting sequence. It really is. And even to kick us off here in race 6, you could go in multiple different ways. I kind of threw the 4 Whitfield's Return in here just because I thought that he's going to have some speed transitioning his turf form to the main track today. But we also have Fastidious Sun in here, who's dropping from the $30,000 level last time out. And we have the 10 all over it to the outside, Peter Walder, really starting off the championship meet in good fashion.
Yeah, and this one is dropping into the condition claiming ranks, and he's returning to the main track after tracking the action in that race. He weakened late. He got beat about 3 lengths. It was against allowance level competition. It was a 12.5 state bred optional claimer going on a mile on the turf. You go back and look at these horses that he was running against. They're really nice horses. That state bred 12.5 optional claimer has some local stakes horses in it all the time. Peter Walder, he's strong. He's 39% with the turf to dirt move, and he adds to the appeal with Javier Castellano in the saddle. So I put that one right on top of my ticket.
Always a very dangerous duo there, right? Peter Walder and Javier Castellano. We'll go on to the 7th race, a maiden $50,000 event, 7 furlongs on the main track. Scratch the 4 Woodford Pine in this event, and I'm shopping for a price here. And primarily, the fact of the matter is, I picked him by process of elimination, I guess you could say, because I ran some statistics. The 1 Orsono for Ralph Nix, again, he's very, very good with his 2-year-old first-time starters. 3-year-old first-time starters, however, over the past 2 years, 3 for 44. I found that to be very interesting. That horse draws the rail today at 7 furlongs. Again, another tricky distance. The 6th, Vinnie White Shoes, Todd Pletcher, first-time starter. Only 1 for 17 with maiden claimer debuters. So, again, I think with process of elimination, this race has the potential of blow-up race written all over it.
Yeah, and I mean, I went with the number 9 in here. Atlas was gaming the feet when he returned from a 13-month layoff. He finished second, 2 noses in front of a horse world leader who are going to show you its performance last time out in their class at this 7 furlong distance. But this one working well at Gulfstream Park West, 36 flat, indicates to me going to be another pretty nice race from this horse this afternoon. Limited sampling over there because not a lot of horses left at Gulfstream Park West that train, but I think this horse is sitting on another top performance.
All right, we'll take a look at the 5 world leader for trainer Dave Fox. And this is a horse who, again, was closing from off the pace at 7 furlongs in his debut performance. They debuted him at the maiden $35,000 event, and we can see him lengths and lengths off the pace, even at the top of the stretch. Ron, I don't care what kind of horse it is or who you are, it's really tough to make up that kind of ground coming down the stretch, no matter the distance. So he's kind of putting in this grinding run down on the inside. It takes him a little bit of time to kind of switch his leads here, too. And you could argue that perhaps the pace was fast early and slow late. But I thought visually that was a sharp performance. By no means did he see that other horse closing out in the center of the racetrack. He probably thought he won the race.
Yeah, and that was Crazy Frank C. that won that day that we were talking about early enough. And he looked like a logical choice. He was taking a big class drop. So to lose to him was not bad because Crazy Frank C. was taking, as I mentioned, a big drop.
All right, the 7 Tempiero. Sorry about that. I'm going to be throwing in here 10-1 on the morning line. Tyler Gaffalione in the saddle. The interesting thing, this horse is very well bred. He's by Bernardini out of a Lemon Drop Kid. Actually makes him half to Tamara Cruz, who was the winner of the $1 million Godolphin Mile. He's a mile specialist on the dirt, and I'm thinking perhaps this horse might be anything on the main track.
Yeah, you just, it's one of those type of horses that you love to have in your Rainbow Six ticket because you're going to get a fair payoff. You're going to knock a lot of people out who might be going just with the horse that's, the big favorite in that race.
We'll go on to race 8, a maiden $35,000 event on the main track at the 1-turn mile. And this is an interesting race, too. The 3 Crystals Cantata is one I'll be using on top for Kathleen O'Connell, but the 5 Baby Antonella makes a lot of sense in here as well.
Yeah, stretching out to a mile after breaking last in the field of 11, then making an outside rally to finish third, beating 2.5 lengths. It was a 6 furlong career debut against 25 maidens on a sealed sloppy track across town. Jose Garofalo, the leading jock, Javier Castellano, handling that stretch out. Like that performance last time out, but I also have the 3 Crystals Cantata on my ticket, as you saw when I put it together earlier.
The 5 Baby Antonella, I really do respect her debut performance. My only concern, and I think she's going to improve with the added distance. My only concern is she's kind of bred to like the off track, and she debuted on a sloppy sealed track, and sometimes we see them have a regression in form in their second start on a fast track. So I kind of swapped it with a long shot, 15-1. This is a filly that I'm using in the exact Diplomatic Affair. Her lone to main track performances, they were kind of subpar, but they were against Maiden Special Weight Company on an off track, and she very well could improve on the class drop and getting to a fast track.
You know, we've noticed that over the last couple of days, at least Wednesday and Thursday, that speed is one of a good factor to have on the main track, and that's what these horses are going to be dealing with. So, you know, I just want to mention, watch these races. The first 5, they're all on the turf. So now you have to start watching to see if that bias or just not a bias, but you know, they were tilted towards speed horses is still going to be there today.
It makes it tough, too, because we won't get the opportunity to really pay attention to the main track before the pick 6 starts. So, because race 5 obviously is a turf race. So, but I believe that yesterday was a little bit better than as we saw on Wednesday.
Right.
So it seems like it's really progressing. And even we might get some rain or weather late this afternoon, and that could definitely change everything.
Well, yeah, then we take a flyer on that. We'll see how that works out. But knowing South Florida, probably turned out to be a beautiful day all day.
So far, so good. Race 9 on the card, the first half of the late daily double, an allowance optional claiming event, the feature race on the day, 1-turn mile on the main track. Again, no super high 5 wagering in this event, as we do have 2 scratches of the 5 asterisks and the 6, 20, and 4. And this is where my single comes into play, the 8 Destin for Todd Pletcher. Interesting enough, you also use the 3 Mr. Ellie, and I think that's this race boils down to those 2 horses.
Yeah, but I can understand what Destin, we mentioned, what a meeting Todd Pletcher's having with his 2-year-olds, and we can actually go back and show you Destin's race from Belmont Park.
Yeah, we'll take a look at this replay, and he did get off to kind of an awkward start. We obviously won't show that, but it did. He got off to an awkward start there under Javier Castellano. He was ridden early to get position inside, and he really couldn't find it until late, and then finally he gets into position, and he kind of just closes on the inside. I thought it was, again, an impressive performance here. The little gray horse down on the inside. The 5 in this race, too, Sea Wizard, is really kind of holding on gamely, but he just rolls right by him for a visually impressive race. A lot of the time we see with 2-year-old debuters, they don't really put in that kind of a mature effort, kind of closing between the rail and another horse to his outside. So I thought that was a big feather in the cap.
Yeah, and that's going to help that horse as he moves forward this afternoon. Of course, that is Todd Pletcher. Let's show you another stat from Todd Pletcher this afternoon. Just a 39 for 139, 28% with horses making their second start. And that's just what Destin will be doing today. Just another one of those fantastic stats from that barn. But the number 3, Mr. Ellie's making his first start since drawing off the Breakers Maiden here in August by almost 6 lengths. We've been mentioning Ralph Nix. This is a 2-year-old. That's not the stat we mentioned before with 3-year-olds. So you got to keep an eye on this horse. He won that race. He had the first start, but in 4+ months.
Yeah, he's coming off an August layoff there, but that was a visually very impressive race, and it was also a very productive race. We've seen a lot of horses from that race to go on and when they're maiden special weight, next out, and even face Allowance Company and beat Allowance Company. So I thought that was a strong race at Gulfstream back in August, and I would agree with you. If I had the funds to do so, I would back up my ticket with the 3.
Well, we got the exact same try. That doesn't happen often with us, so we're in total agreement in that race.
That's either a good thing or a bad thing.
We don't know yet.
We'll take a look at the 10th and final race on today's card. A 6250 conditional claimers, 5 furlongs onto the main.
We did it again, look.
Oh, we did it again. Well, maybe we should just go in on the late double, right?
There you go.
Okay. The 6 Nocturnal Q is an interesting one. I loved this horse last time out, and he didn't get off to a great start. He was off slowly. This is a horse who I think wants to be a bit closer to the lead, not to mention Twist and Turn was the winner of that race and went uncontested gate to wire for George Navarro. I do think that the tables will turn, and this horse might get a more preferred setup.
Yeah, and he's wheeling back in 6 days, and he's 8-1 on the morning line, and I'm hoping we get 8-1 on the morning line. Trained by Antonio Nagasano. Apprentice Dorado Corrales handling the turn back from 6 to 5.5 furlongs, which also helps this horse.
Absolutely. The 2 Dancing My Way is an interesting one, too. Just 1 non-winners of 2 lifetime condition. Now, this is, you look at the conditions of the race. For fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upward, which have never won 3 races, or 3-year-olds, obviously. Now, she is both of those. She is a 3-year-old filly, and she's a non-winner of 3. So she's kind of going against the grain here a little bit, but you can't argue that she is in very good form.
Yeah, I knew she was given some time off after notching that second consecutive victory. She shipped from Parks to defeat horses across town. So she looks like she's sitting on another good performance. And we mentioned Vincente Guidel, the apprentice, been riding good form here.
Absolutely. The 7 De Cosa is the one that you use, too. My only concern with her is the 7 seconds out of 21 starts. She's extremely consistent in terms of exacta, trifecta purposes, but sometimes you don't see much follow-through.
Well, we put her in third, so we're hoping that she closes at a late super high 5 or an early daily double would get a good price.
All
a
right.
late daily double.
Late daily double. We shall see what happens. But once again, we do have 10 races on tap today, and we do have just shy of a $70,000 carryover in that 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. That does start in race 5 today, but we have rolling super high 5s. We have early pick 5, late pick 5, plenty of betting.
And a special today, we have an all-turf early pick 5. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay, thank you for joining us here on Gulfstream today. We're going to take a quick break, and Larry Comas will be back shortly with scratches and changes. And best of luck on all of your wagers.